Hi, I'm Meena Malik Hussain and you're watching The Coffee Table, and as usual today we have a fantastic show lined up for you, and because you know we love medical nerding out on this show, today we have two amazing rheumatologists on the show. And what are rheumatologists, you might ask? Today we will answer all of these questions. So we're going to be talking about rheumatology and we're going to be talking about arthritis, because now the weather is changing and everyone's joints are creaking, and I think we worry about these things. So I'm delighted to be welcoming today on the show Professor Dr. Nighat Mir Ahmed, who is a professor of rheumatology. She is the chair of the rheumatology department at the National Hospital and Medical Center, and she is the chair of the Arthritis Care Foundation. And Dr. Shakib Qureshi, who is a senior consultant of rheumatology also, obviously, experts on the show. He is the former head of the rheumatology department in Delaware. He is a consultant at the Genesis Center on Jail Road here in Lahore. And he is also the director of rheumatology of a telemedicine program in Utah. Welcome to the show, accomplished doctors. I'm delighted.
Thank you so much for having us here.
Sort of pick your brains.
Yes, you're ready.
So I want to sort of begin at a very basic level of question, which, Dr. Ahmed, like, what do rheumatologists do?
Rheumatologists are actually physicians who treat arthritis.
Right.
So not just arthritis, because when we talk about rheumatologists, that means the whole spectrum. That means, it's not only the joints, but it is the muscles, diseases related to bones, so tendons, joints, everything. And the diseases are complex. I think what you should be talking more about arthritis today, which people don't know. So basically, rheumatology is a specialty which deals with diseases of the joints, of the muscles, of bones, of ligaments, of tendons, soft tissues. So it's a vast field, and people who specialize in that, they are physicians, they are not surgeons. Just like you have a cardiologist and a cardiothoracic surgeon, you have a neurologist and a neurosurgeon. Similarly, you have a rheumatologist.
Yes.
So,
which is not the same thing as an orthopedics person.
No. Orthopedic people do not treat arthritis-related conditions. So they're more for like fractures, fall, or they fall under something.
So just like bones specifically. Now I'm sort of wanting to sort of unravel this, because a lot of the times when one thinks about something like arthritis, one only thinks of joints and bones, which is probably why a lot of people end up at orthopedic doctors and not rheumatologists.
There are two reasons for it, because there were no rheumatologists to begin with over here. When I came from USA, there were like 10 rheumatologists in the country.
Wow.
So where would people go? Obviously, they would go to other people, other specialties. So, but even now, after so many years, when I came back from USA, I had this passion to start a training program, to have more people come into rheumatology so that we could have a training center in each of the medical colleges, universities, teaching hospitals. And at that time, there were only two at the most in Punjab teaching hospitals which had some rheumatology program, but none was recognized. So we had deficiency of rheumatoologists because there was no training program.
Right.
So
and that's something that I'm sure that we'll sort of come back to when we talk about the foundation, because that's also
I can talk about that later.
We'll sort of come back to it in a minute. So Dr. Qureshi, so we have arthritis, and again, there are a lot of attendant things that happen around it, but essentially it's an correct me if I'm wrong, this is an autoimmune problem?
Yeah, so like Dr. Nighat Mir, I've been teaching for the last, I would say, 18 years at least. So the first thing when any resident comes to me, even the residents don't know, that the common medical residents do not know what a rheumatologist does. So the first step I tell them is just write the different illnesses that we treat. Just to get the baseline knowledge of how much do they know. So beyond rheumatoid and a few other things, they cannot go beyond that. So yes, we do a lot of different things. For example, osteoarthritis is pretty common, but most of rheumatologists do not really take care of that because it's easy and primary cares can do. But our main job is to differentiate the osteoarthritis with a large, vast group of inflammatory arthritides, which may include, rheumatoid arthritis, seronegative rheumatoid arthritis, a lot of spondyloarthropathies, which basically in a nutshell is an inflammatory back pain of young people, and HLA-B27 positive. Then there is a whole group of crystal joint disease, which is gout is one of those things, pseudo-gout. But this is only the arthritic part.
Right.
Then we have a huge component of autoimmune diseases, which actually can be pretty vast as well.
Yeah.
They can include anything from connective tissue diseases, which we call like lupus, Sjogren's syndrome, scleroderma, and group of actually autoimmune muscle diseases like polymyositis, dermatomyositis. And then the third part is actually pretty tough, actually. It's called the vasculitides.
Okay.
So there's a whole group of autoimmune diseases which actually are called vasculitides. So large vessel, medium vessel, small vessel vasculitis. And they can be actually potentially life-threatening and organ-threatening. So for us as rheumatologists, that's actually the most challenging part of the treatment.
Yeah.
Now, having said all that, there's another actually component which is very important, is actually other causes of pain, which cannot be bracketed under the previous ones. For example, fibromyalgia, we were discussing actually before we started, is so common that I cannot even tell you that how many patients I've seen in Pakistan who are mislabeled as lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, just because their blood tests were positive. But a careful examination and taking history turned out that they were fibromyalgia. And they were undiagnosed for 10 to 15 years. And they were taking toxic medication for no reasons. As
So do you think that misdiagnosis is because of a lack of awareness of symptoms, or is it sort of diagnostic, we don't have the facilities, like what's happening there?
So diagnosis is very easy to make actually, because it's a diagnosis of exclusion. So it basically would take a very good, well-trained rheumatologist to determine that, because you pretty much rely on the history. History of actually fibromyalgia is entirely different from what the history of joint pain in rheumatoid arthritis and inflammatory arthritis would be. And then a very careful examination and lab testing, and then a proper treatment. Because treatment is not that straightforward too. It is actually very different in everyone actually. It has to be tailor-made according to the presentation and according to the personality of the patient and what is triggering that particular phenomena. And then beyond fibromyalgia, we have osteoporosis. Osteoporosis is actually very common. Community awareness is very low. In every community, it is very low. And people do not really recognize it because it doesn't hurt. So basically, it does not hurt. It's like hypertension, How many people would really care about hypertension until they have the stroke or something else? So the end result of untreated hypertension is stroke or heart disease. End result of untreated or unrecognized osteoporosis is fracture. And fractures carry
so a lot of
fragility
people
fractures.
Because in my mind as a layperson, you think of osteoporosis as very sort of hunched over old ladies.
Not at all.
It is actually a silent disease. So people, what happens, you must have noticed that, Shakib. What happens is that patients are prescribed right and left medicines for osteoporosis, and they are started on either injections or oral medicines, which is, I think, not the right thing to do because they're hurting. So they think that they are hurting, so they go to the doctor and
it's a painful syndrome.
But osteoporosis is a silent disease. You have pain when you fracture. So that's
and ideally, you shouldn't get to that point where your bones are crumbling.
Yes,
But the problem is, like any other illnesses, the preventive treatment in Pakistan is almost non-existent.
Yes.
Because patients don't want to really want to take any medication because they feel it's not right.
Yeah, if they feel like if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Exactly.
But that's really
But
not
I can
a
tell you
sensible
that
approach.
many billions of dollars are spent in U.S. healthcare system just to treat that fracture. Because that fracture carries a very high morbidity and mortality because it's old age actually. So the risk of DVTs and PEs, pulmonary embolism, they die within, the rate of death actually in 2 years is about 25% actually after.
That's very high.
No,
but if you cycle this back to arthritis, and from what I understand, the sort of primary major problem with arthritis is it's caused by inflammation.
So arthritis is of like 100 different types, right? So one is because of old age, because the cartilage degenerates and people have knee pain and the back pain, and so that's a totally different group. And almost 25% of our population is suffering from that, which is osteoarthritis.
Right.
They're hurting in their thumb, in their knee, in their back, in their neck. They need correct exercises, correct posture, and be safe.
So you say posture, sat up. I'm like, posture.
Ergonomic issues, the ergonomic.
And we just make sure they don't get painkillers because they keep on taking painkillers, and that's not good for stomach and not good. So one group is that. The group which we actually are specialists in, we treat those also because they also come to us. You know why they come to us?
Why?
Because they're told that you're going to have joint replacement and they can't afford it. 80% of the patients will not afford a joint replacement. So where do they go now? So they end up coming to us and go, please go have your knees replaced. No, we can't. We don't have the facility. We don't have the money. So we end up treating them with exercises, weight reduction, blah, blah, and conservative. But then there's a large group of patients whom we treat, which is autoimmune. So what happens in autoimmune? Autoimmune makes like, friendly fire. You shoot down your own planes.
Yes.
Accidentally, it's your own plane and you
So
fire.
your body is attacking its own cells.
Yes. So what triggers it? Why should somebody's own defense turn on themselves?
Exactly. Why should your body go rogue?
This we don't
Okay, but
know.
we're going to take a very quick break and, on this cliffhanger moment.
Okay.
So, why does your body turn rogue on yourself? You will find out after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back to the coffee table. We're talking to Dr. Nigat Mir Ahmed and Dr. Shakib Qureshi, who are both top rheumatologists, and we're talking about arthritis. And we left you before the break on the cliffhanger of autoimmune disease. And look, why? What is happening? So yes, continue, please, Dr. Ahmed.
So those antibodies which are formed in the blood can attack the eye, and people can lose their vision. So sometimes they end up seeing in the eye clinics. So then they can have lung issues. So the lung gets inflamed.
So your body can just sort of decide at some point that, okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to attack this place here.
Or brain or kidneys,
Huh.
like in lupus and other vasculitis, which Dr. Shakib just said.
Yes.
Because all the vessels in the body are inflamed and they sort of thrombose and they don't supply the organs, so they can end up. I've seen patients ending up in vascular surgery with gangrene of the fingers and amputations, but people don't knowing the cause for it. So having an amputated toe, having another amputated toe till somebody tells them that, hello, you need to go to the specialist. So it can present in any clinic. Right. So what happens is arthritis is one of the manifestations. Fever is a very common manifestation of autoimmune diseases. So people go on with investigations, $1 million investigation is going on to see why this patient has fever. So after a year or 6 months or maybe after 2 years, Shakib. So people somebody recognizes that and says,
culturally it's quite common also, because I can off the top of my head think of so many people who always seem to have a low-grade fever and they just don't feel well.
Well, so that actually, low-grade fever is, we were talking about fibromyalgia. There is a sister disease called chronic fatigue syndrome. They've changed that name too. So some people have that feverish kind of a feeling, low-grade fever, fatigue and malaise and whatnot. They fulfill another criteria of another disease called chronic fatigue syndrome, which is relatively even more disabling and more difficult to treat than fibromyalgia actually.
Yeah.
So there's, as she was saying, there's a whole spectrum of these things. So, and you have to really slice it out. That's the fun part of rheumatology. However, whatever she said, to add to actually her thing about autoimmune arthritis, there is a good news too. They are very treatable now. They're very treatable.
Okay.
So early recognition, early intervention, and a more aggressive approach can really help you lead a normal life.
So what are indications that you are developing an arthritic condition?
So the one that we are really concerned about, Dr. Nigat Mir was telling about, was the inflammatory arthritis. The symptoms and presentations are different. For example, she was saying about the osteoarthritic degenerative.
Yes, and your
age component is different. Like it's going to be like 50s, 60s, or 70s. In autoimmune inflammatory arthritis, although it can start at any age, I've seen like kids as young as 2 years, but the peak age of incidence is between 20 and 50. And the symptoms, and the symptoms are swollen joints.
Okay.
So it's not only going to be just like a painful knee that hurts after playing soccer. It's going to be actually something like it's going to be morning stiffness, a lot of swollen joints, inability to get up from the bed for half an hour or 1 hour. And in almost most of the inflammatory arthritis, the whole days you can spend easily. Like while you're active, you're okay. Once you sit down, your joints get inflamed again. So it is opposite to what osteoarthritis would be. Osteoarthritis, more you walk, more you do activity, it's activity related as opposed to the inflammatory arthritis.
So it's opposite.
So opposite
so
to
with
each other.
osteoarthritis, the more you exercise and move around, the more it hurts.
For example, a 55 years old female whose knees hurting and is like for a long period of time and sits down, it gets a little better. That's like a plain osteoarthritis history.
Right. When you rest it gets better. So young people can get this also. Like arthritis happens to young people.
Tons of young teenagers, sports people, media personalities So be careful.
So no
They're at the prime age, actually.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
as Shakib was saying, and he's so very right,
Yes.
that, you know, the thing is this, that these can start with joint pains,
Right.
you know, but it is a manifestation which is the most common one. But sometimes, as
Just
I
lung
said,
disease, for
yeah,
example. Just lung
exactly.
disease. I just saw a patient yesterday who started lupus, just lung disease to begin with.
Yeah.
Nothing else. Rheumatoid arthritis, I've seen tons of patients who just start with
That's the
inflammatory
easiest
lung
thing.
disease and
Yeah.
nothing else.
So you start with lung disease, but it's actually rheumatoid arthritis.
Or kidney
yeah.
disease,
How
or
did
kidney disease.
How does what? How? Dr. Ahmed,
Because
what
it's a
is this
systemic, so it's a
trajectory?
systemic inflammatory disorder. It's a
Because you
systemic.
have antibodies all over. So it's so
They can
what
pick and
everybody
choose.
thinks about is rheumatoid arthritis. So rheumatoid arthritis is the easiest to treat. Because you know, if
Arthritic component.
because patients have arthritis most of the time, and they can, you know, start from in their 20s, in their 30s, in their 40s. Those people also cannot reach us in time.
Right.
So by the time they reach us, they're already in
They say
wheelchair.
abundant stuff.
They've lost their job. Women who are married, they get divorced.
Yes,
It's
true.
so sad.
A lot of social issues, yeah.
Because so many social issues with a newlywed lady who comes into the house and has arthritis.
Or a female who cannot
And
actually
with-
have kids, you know,
and with
because she's on
rheumatoid,
toxic
she can't-
medication.
exactly.
Yeah, because with rheumatoid arthritis, the medicine that you take to control the condition, then you
Pregnancy
can't
is
have
contraindicated,
kids.
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
You're not
yeah.
supposed to get pregnant,
Yeah.
but if you don't know you have it,
Yes.
So then the
exactly.
SARS Bahu issue starts. You know, I've
Yes,
seen that all
yes.
the time. And the SARS wants to kick out the Bahu because she cannot have the fifth
And-
kid, you know, now.
and it kind of boils down to either being misdiagnosed or not even knowing what you've got.
So
let's unpack rheumatoid arthritis, and I'm sort of really interested now because young people can get it.
Yes,
And
Yeah.
young people get
16,
lupus.
18, 20.
Yeah.
How? Tell me everything.
Because those antibodies.
You have to do more programs if you have. if you want to-
Be prepared.
There's too many secrets in one show. You can't actually tell you the whole thing.
because those antibodies, and it's very interesting that sometimes, you know, you can detect these antibodies by blood tests, right?
Sometimes you can, and you
Sometimes
still can have rheumatoid arthritis.
Yes, and nobody's
That's a fun part.
Nee,
You know?
nobody.
You know, so you can have blood test positive and not have rheumatoid arthritis,
Yes.
and you can have no blood test positive and you can have rheumatoid arthritis.
So who is at higher risk to have
Females.
rheumatoid arthritis?
Females, young people, and mostly women, but with family history, there's a genetic
There can be a
component
little
too.
bit
And
of-
I
yeah.
think because we have more consanguineous marriages,
Yeah.
I think that probably is also, so it runs in the family also.
And the other thing actually, which is
And
very
smoking.
important. Yeah. And one, oh yeah,
Smoking.
bad dental hygiene, for example.
Yeah,
So, you know, yeah.
That's true. That's an actual thing
Yeah,
I read.
yeah,
Oh, no,
about.
it is because there is, you know, all these bacteria, they actually stimulate the autoimmune process. Actually, they can.
But ask Shakib, please, let's request everyone that these people are referred to a rheumatologist if
Look
they
at the
are
current
not
people.
getting better.
No, so that they are not
Because-
mismanaged.
Yes,
So that they are not
because, you know, what is the window of opportunity?
It's very early.
It's 1 year, and if you don't control the disease within a year, for example, if it's any physician who's treating it, and he knows treating rheumatoid, but then if the patient is not getting better, ideally in 6 months or to a year, it should be immediately referred to a rheumatologist so that they don't get crippled for life.
So why actually Dr. Nigat Mir is saying that is that it's not just hypothetical, it's actually by evidence-based. So in the United States, there are actually early inflammatory arthritis clinics. And why they are? And third-party payers pay for that, though it's very expensive, is because there is a window of opportunity in the first 3 to 6 months to start them on the correct treatment. Because if you don't do that in the very first 3 to 6 months, by the time the patient is going to come to you, they already have developed irreversible deformities and irreversible damage. So that important thing about all this is that this damage is irreversible. Although she was saying that it's treatable,
Yes.
early intervention can save you, but once the things have developed, you cannot reverse them.
Such a pity.
So that's the thing.
So
Such a pity.
does that sort of, for example, manifest in things like if your hands kind of twist?
So basically, the patient cannot even, you know,
Even pick a spoon.
Yeah. And eat or dress or
They
you know,
cannot
forget
open the
anything.
doorknob.
So how about
Drive a car.
young women in a household? Can you imagine the situation?
Piano players have come to me that they've lost their actually livelihood because they can't play the piano anymore. Just imagine the pain of that person who may have gone to a college, university, and trained herself to be the best pianist, and now actually can't even play that.
And
So just imagine the brain actually, because depression can be so common in these people.
absolutely.
Absolutely. Chronic pain can lead to depression.
Yes.
the home's breaking apart, the social fabric breaking apart because of one person
Mom
having
cannot,
arthritis.
dress up the kids,
Yes, they
and this
can't.
and that.
So if only they would come early and get
Yeah.
treated, nothing will happen. It's
Yes.
all
Very treatable.
all treatable.
So what is the sort of usual way that one can manage this condition? Let's say, for example, that you have a diagnosis at a timely diagnosis.
So proper history, proper examination, proper testing, and then proper treatment. There are four components, and
Right.
all four have to be met with. You cannot actually have somebody who just comes and you don't take a proper history. History means I already told you the difference between osteo
Yes.
and rheumatoid. So that is important. Then you go to the examination. How many joints are involved? And which joints are involved? For example, a knee joint is the only joint involved. You can actually aspirate and inject it, and the patient will walk out very happy from your clinic immediately, actually. And if you have a lot of hands involved, like a lot of joints in the hands, you have to give them treatment of medication immediately. So it's so different. And then you come to the labs. Labs and imaging, you always want to make sure that how severe it is. What is the prognosis? Prognosis means how the patient is going to behave over the years, even if you start the treatment. And then actually goes the follow-up part. You have to make sure that the patient started correctly, and slowly we titrate the dose up to the point when you have the complete remission is our goal now.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
in US,
Complete
US
remission is
No,
possible.
so
That's
in
the
US,
goal.
Yeah, in US they call it actually treat to target. Treat to target means that remission is the goal. You have to be living like a normal person, behaving like a normal person, be able to do anything that you used to do.
Yeah.
So up
Quite
until
right.
that, and there are actually enough medications that we have now that you can do that if the patient can afford it, or we can get it to them.
Those are factors that I want to
That is the main crunch
talk
point.
about. We're going to take a very quick break and come back to more kinds of solutions and challenges that we face here in Pakistan. Stay with us. Hi, welcome back to the coffee table, and quite possibly the most fun conversation you've ever heard about rheumatology and arthritis, because this show is on fire. So before the break, we were talking about rheumatoid.
We got you excited enough.
I know, I'm just like, wow, amazing. I can now to go back
Or
to talk-
scared enough, maybe. You never know.
I know, it's a combination of both, sort of, horror and interest.
And interest.
So, Dr.
Interesting horror.
Yes.
But there is horror, but there's good news.
Yes.
Good news for patients.
Dr. Evans, you've been sort of treating patients in Pakistan for decades now. Do you feel like there is more of this sort of autoimmune disease in South Asians or in Pakistan? Do you think it's on the rise now?
I think you detect it more.
Okay.
So a
have
lot
more-
of
yeah.
progress has
We have
been
more
made in the
blood tests
past 10
available now,
years.
yeah.
Past 10 years, there's a lot of research, and actually we have a lot of treatment, that's why. So it's not that it is on the rise,
Okay.
it's being detected earlier.
Right, so-
Unfortunately, it's not being treated earlier on time. And as we were talking about the medications, just like if somebody has tuberculosis and that patient is having cough and fever, and you're giving them Panadol and you're giving them cough medicine,
not gonna
for
get
TB, their lungs are going to finish.
Yeah.
So similarly, if you're treating rheumatoid arthritis and you're just giving them painkillers, so
That's
what
not-
will happen? Their joints are going to get destroyed. But the medications, if you start them on time, they are expensive. So everybody cannot afford them. That was our issue. Because yes, we could see them free, and we can write them prescriptions,
can write a
but
few.
they would just come back that we couldn't do the test. Tests are expensive, and the medications are expensive.
Simple blood work can cost you 30,000 rupees in Pakistan now for the first visit, and and our fees is almost like 5% of that probably.
Yeah.
So you can imagine actually how much costly it is to actually just diagnose it actually.
And also, do you think it's linked to background also? Like if you are coming from
Ethnic background?
so if you're coming from a lower socioeconomic background, and is it linked? Are these conditions
Lower
linked to
socio-
malnutrition?
Yeah, lower
and things
I
like
would say
that?
not actually directly linked to your social, but I think the
no.
outcomes can definitely be linked to your social background.
Oh.
Even in the United States, inner city dwellers, the one with lower socioeconomic status, they always have a bad outcome because
Okay.
they cannot follow up with you, they are non-compliant with the treatment, or they cannot afford it. So the people, so it's, I don't think it's the difference between the young and like poor or the rich. It's basically the affordability part of getting the treatment.
And being able to
Being
afford
able to see even
the treatment.
someone.
So that kind of brings me to the Arthritis Care Foundation
Yes,
that you are the
yes,
chair of, Dr.
yes,
Ahmed. So could you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so basically that was the reason that when we used to see the patients and they would come back and they had not taken any medicine, the medicine cost can range from like 15 to 20,000 a month to almost like 5 to 6 lakhs for the injections or biologics which we're using, because sometimes like 40% of them may not respond to just oral medication, so we have to switch them. Yeah, just standard. So
And also these are chronic conditions, which means you have it for the rest of your life. So you can't stop taking your medicine because you feel better now.
Most of the time we can't stop them. They are for long over there. But so Arthritis Care Foundation, which Sumaira is a co-chair with me, and she deals with arthritis in children, which is another subject. And we have hardly any trained rheumatologists, except she has got the formal training for that. And Dr. Ahmed Said. So we just decided that we need a foundation which will provide patients the medications to deserving at subsidized rates or totally free. And that includes biologics also.
What are biologics?
And you know who are our donors?
So they were the game changers.
Yeah.
For example, before 99, the only treatment you could offer to the patients was the routine methotrexates and sulfasalazines. And after 99, it got completely revolutionized. We have actually a group of like 5 different biologics, which are, there's so many drugs in that particular group, which can completely eradicate, like not eradicate, I would say, but completely control the disease.
Wow.
And you can feel like a normal person. And not only that, you can feel like a normal person, but your future joint destruction would be slowed down to or stopped.
Double prong.
And Shakib, people will, those who want to, young women who want to get pregnant.
Oh, yeah. So
and
they're
because
safer.
of the
Yeah. That's a good
medication,
point.
These
Yeah.
medications cannot be used in pregnancy.
So biologics can
sometimes
be.
women live
Oh, excellent. So
years in
if you're on
Some of them.
biologics, you can have a baby
Some of them.
safely.
Some of the biologics are very safe, and people have become pregnant on that. That's good news.
good
for
outcome.
them.
Yes, that is.
For example,
but
with
they're
the
very
main ones they
expensive.
can.
They are very expensive, 5 to 6 lakhs on an average in a year. So who are our donors? Our donors are the patients who afford it, and when they see they are getting better,
Really?
so they say, okay, and we just tell them that this
As a
patient is needy.
thankfulness, gratefulness.
And they have been like amazing. People, people of Pakistan love to donate for a
That's
good cause.
true. We are
and
very
they are
good
our
with our
major
charity.
supporters, and we have been able to provide free clinics, free medications, free biologics, even joint replacement. So we had just telling you a story, a young 20-year-old diploma engineer from Multan who had arthritis when he was like age 15. And so when he came to us, he was on a wheelchair, his knees were swollen, he had SPA with peripheral arthritis. So, depressed, his father died, the sole breadwinner of the family, out of work. So, was totally treated by Arthritis Care Foundation. Recently, he got his hip replaced, a very good orthopedic surgeon. When he knew that he was ACF patient, so he said, I'm not going to charge anything. So he had free hip replacement. He got those biologics for 2 years, and now he's on oral medicines, and he's back to work again.
Wow.
So isn't that good news? That is good news. Only the delay is the problem, and of course the cost is a big issue. So I would really request people to support Arthritis Care Foundation, and just don't delay. Just don't delay.
So then, if one is a generally healthy person, what should one do as a yearly maybe procedure? Because this whole idea of having a physical every year is not a thing in Pakistan either. And I know that in the US it is, but here it's like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's fine. If nothing hurts, you're okay. But because, again, now you have terrified me to the bones, pun intended, that young people, you should get screened. So what should one do? So one should every year see your rheumatologist and...
I would say there is no role of that, actually. I think.
How do you monitor yourself?
So I think it's, again, community awareness, what we are trying to spread here. Because I think there's no, as such, even American guidelines that you should be checking your body every year for an autoimmune disease, actually, because they'll just raise a lot of anxiety in your body for no reason, actually. And their studies have not proven that kind of a deal is going to help. But over there, again, in the USA, there are primary care physicians. As you said, there are a lot of other things which are very preventive in nature, which everybody should get done. And during that, actually, they get picked up. So then they get referred. Over there, actually, to go to a consultant, you almost have to be referred. So here there's not a concept of primary care. It's almost like self-referral. So, and that's why we're trying to, at Dr. Nigat Meera and I, was kind of this program or programs like this can spread the awareness. And awareness is the key. That people should know where to go. Like, for example, she was saying just to go to a rheumatologist right now would be a goal if somebody hurts. Now that's a big thing.
Yeah.
And then let them sort it out for you. So don't actually just like also be having over anxiety or be overcautious. Just anything that, just don't panic, just see someone in that particular specialty that actually you have a symptoms for.
And,
if your body, if your abdomen is hurting, you're not going to go to a rheumatologist. That's more of where you go to a GI or a good GP, So that's, I would say.
And another thing, Shakib, like these young boys who can go to an eye clinic and they find out that they have eye involvement, uveitis, iritis, they can pick them up. And similarly, skin clinics where the skin rash like psoriasis.
There's a lot of overlaps between the.
So there are a lot of overlaps. So they should be aware that, sometimes they're visiting these clinics and people are not aware that it's a part of an arthritis.
For example, lupus can just present as skin disease.
So,
just as skin disease.
Yeah, just rashes and hair loss. So I think it is very important that primary care physicians, we did get a grant to train primary care physicians. So we, and Dr. Saira, she wrote the grant and that was great. So trained like 40 family physicians in different cities of Pakistan. So what we did was, it was like a module. They had to do like so many modules. It was 6 months course.
That's great.
Yeah,
because basically these are not connections that a lay person can make.
No.
If I went to get my eyes tested, I can't sort of make the connection between that condition and something else. I wouldn't be able to.
Not know that.
And not only that, unnecessary referrals are not required too. For example, you come to me and you have like glaucoma going on, I would not be the right person, So she's right, training the primary care at grassroots level, If you train them well, then I think it'll be the right thing to do.
So we are running courses for them also because there are guidelines for family physicians in UK or USA that if you have a patient who has eye problem or he has back pain, young people with back pain, less than 45 years of age.
Whoa.
If you have a back pain,
I think a lot of us have back pain because we're always hunched on a computer all day long.
That's the ergonomic part. If you take away the mobile phones of the whole community here, I think all the neck pain will go. Neck pain will at least go away.
Okay, don't panic, guys.
Everybody's like doing this the whole day long.
And can't sleep at night and then have fibromyalgia. So basically, there are guidelines that if you see somebody who's less than 45 years of age, has back pain, which
has not been
which is
not going away.
Yeah. So
so that doesn't go away.
That's a chronic back.
Chronic back.
And when you go to a family physician and he knows that there could be that arthritis in young men mostly, which just presents with back pain, and honestly, those people with spondyloarthropathies, with back pain, neck pain, it's
very
so common. I
very
think.
Common. I've seen more actually ankylosing spondylitis patients here and there than 18 years of work in USA.
Yes.
In 2 years, it's that common in the males here.
I hadn't
unbelievable.
If you are a man under 45 with chronic back pain, please take it seriously and ask your physician to refer you to a rheumatologist. So I have 2 for you right here. Okay, but it's important
I've
because
seen females too, though.
And females, everybody.
Very atypical presentation in females.
Very atypical. With heel pain.
With females, it could be like a swollen elbow. It could be a swollen knee. It could be a heel that hurts. So in females, it can present very differently. Or just an eye disease, as she was saying, just a red, painful eye.
What's a good question to ask your GP to understand if they know these things?
Well,
is there a way? Because
basic knowledge.
There's no sort of diploma.
So we assume that particular person, like for example, we are trained internists too, by the way. We are both board certified trained internists. So we are primary care physicians.
Geniuses on the show.
No, so you have to have a good baseline knowledge then to know the other illnesses. Like how are we going to differentiate, like she and I, that this is actually a psoriatic rash versus, let's say, an eczema. We have to have a good background knowledge of everything. So we board certify in basic all internal medicine subspecialty, and then we actually come to the subspecialty of rheumatology. So we expect that the basic training of a GP or an internist is going to be up to the mark, that they would have a basic knowledge. For example,
so one should check the credentials of one's GP.
Let's say three things in a male. A male, 23 years old, 6 months history of back pain, which is not going away, which is actually worse in the morning and gets better with activity. There's no brainer. It's easy. So they have to have baseline knowledge of few things. As a trained internist, I know actually what the causes of acute renal failure, chronic renal failure, and all other things asthma versus pneumonia. So if you know that, then you're not going to make a mistake about it.
Right.
So a good trained internist is very
So you
important.
should be aware of the qualifications of your...
And they should also know where to stop. You know, like if, you know, this is it, this is what I'm going to manage, and then let the rheumatologist know.
Yeah,
And generally, if you don't smoke and you don't drink soft drinks and you eat well and you exercise, then generally you'll be okay.
This is your defense mechanism talking.
we don't know what your genes are actually.
Well, I think
it's always good to have a
I think
good
it's overall it's a good message what you're
Yeah.
saying, but I don't think that would prevent me from having like a migraine or something. Like so, the main thing is that yes, a healthy lifestyle. For example, in our osteoarthritic patients, is very important.
Very important.
Because obesity has a direct link to the osteoarthritis.
Ah.
So unless you do not lose weight actually, and in a proper method, like a method. And maintain it to that level, then you will actually be more prone to have osteoarthritis.
Right.
It's very
So generally, is to be aware of your body and look after
yeah,
it.
general health is very important anyway.
Yeah.
We should all exercise, regardless we are sick or not, like 3 times a week or 5 times a week.
Yeah.
And not get junk food.
Not get avoid once in a while is good actually.
Once in a
I come to Pakistan for the junk, so that we cannot avoid actually.
What was junk food in Pakistan?
Well, I think what is the correct food in Pakistan? You talk.
Thank you so much, doctors.
City Park.
Well, even if ghee, ghee is really healthy now. Everyone is eating ghee.
Dinner at Waris Nihari, I have to fast for another 7 days.
Well,
But it's
ghee
worth
is
it.
healthy
It's
for
worth it.
everybody.
Yeah.
It's
Once in a
fine.
while.
Once in a
Thank you
while.
so much, doctors, for being
Thank
on
you
the
so
show.
much.
This is a fascinating and very complex conversation, and I feel like we have to sort of continue this over many more shows. Thank you guys for watching. I'm sure that this has been the most delightful medical show you've ever seen on the coffee table. If you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe. Stop smoking for your bones. We will see you next
Healthy
time
diet.
on the coffee table. Bye now.